나 정말 예 참되게 표현 처사돼야 하게 당고 내 참되 뜻이들레스.
Good morning, everyone. Geshe to everyone.
예, 난 이리 한 정도 때 먼저 제공생 지회바들이야 공생의 바 제게 소소의 참여줘야 되는 공생단의 바 제샤제 먼저들이야 참되가 영화의 뱀마스지 야오시라를 그린 좀 배우를 지수이라 유스.
But just write it down, so I want to really acknowledge the joy that your decision to come here leads to the arising in my mind, in that I know everyone works very hard in your various places of work and activities in life. Now you've got a break from work, a holiday, but you've chosen, instead of going traveling here and there, you've rather come here to engage in retreat, to cultivate good qualities in your mind, so that you have done so really brings great joy to me.
예, 나는 저 공생당 안직도 참여줘야지 말아줘야 기부야게 된 디기야게 된다가 안에 공생당야다. 내가라리 제가를 유버서 아디네 relation 먼저 바 참여줘야다. 아디네 기도야지 공생당 참여줘야지 수수 기부야게 된다라 네 두고로 왔어.
The reason people enjoy going on holidays, long to go on more holidays, is because it's not so much about taking a break from work, although that's part of it. It's primarily in that we enjoy it. It brings happiness to our mind. So this is why we like to travel and to go here and there.
예, 당연히 안지게 안도신의 참되가 영화돼야 마저기 디기 영화다 기부영화게 된다로 연구를 제사 참돼야 돼 디리에 제사도 된다라 먼저 공생다 참견조약이 미유되다 먼저지 참 영어제 참념의 책이 미유니 보디 된다 주야라 안제부 주야 디기 주야게 된다라 이가 집어 차대로와.
And the motivation for coming to a retreat, though, is actually quite the same. You've decided to come here because you see this as a route or a means by which one can gain happiness. So whether one is going on holiday to see a beautiful environment and experience new things, or coming here and engaging in the cultivation of qualities in your mind, the motivation really is the same, to generate happiness within.
이미지기 기부야다 다워지 기부야다 로직리 기부야야 안식이 메시지 그런 기부야데 네 내가 비기부라 차고래 제사당한테 땡기 그디나 기부라 치 땡기 치고 거래 제사 땡기 되와 세팅도 고거래 제사디 고거와 제사당한테 캠견 줘야다 네 바세데 이미지기 디기 마도 안 디젤야지 아까가요 어디 차고래 제사 캠견 줘나 이미지기 디기디야 디기디 연구에면 대기로와다 주제 찍기 되기 아치 남식 좋아하더니 아마치와 용시버와 어디니 제가 템부스카야 말와 디기 대한 이미지니 되기 된다래 당한도대 참되의 땡이 대와 그디는 대화는 대화 땡이 대화 탈두기 대화도 주비하게 된다라 먼저 디기 주고 제사디 나는 지금 참되야 다 참여되의 미유디 디기 주비하기 지금 이나양 다 디기들이야 안데 지금 미타와 켜봐 슈침 부여에 버려 제사 참여료에도 공세다디 디기디 취재하듯이 다 님이 가시지마도요 매발에 세상한도 뒤에 참되지 아니 디기 주의기디 유용주요도 디기 대부 디기디다 개워치마 세대다 개워치마다 안디네 땡이 대화 안데 기디는 대화니 대화영하기 디기디 누구에게 털람도 차대요 제사디 샤라기 안데 지금 디기를 미유 지발디 디기 되보달라 하는 말씀 쉬고지 책을 읽으면 책으로.
Whilst the motivation then is the same. If one is going on holiday or coming here on retreat, the motivation of wanting to achieve happiness, there is quite a difference in the outcome. And this you will know from your own experience. If you have a lovely holiday, you go somewhere beautiful, maybe with dear friends, then the holiday ends, you return to your home, your work, and all too quickly, you get caught up in the challenges of life, and it seems like the holiday was an eternity ago, and the happiness and the joy that you experienced didn't last that long, didn't last that much beyond the actual holiday itself. And this is a mark of the pleasurable experiences we have in our life, in that they are temporary and they come to an end all too soon, and we are left yearning to repeat them again, to have something similar again. So this shows that the happiness that we experience in life is temporary and is ultimately, or in the end, is unfulfilling. And leaves us yearning for more happiness, because the type of happiness we long for is happiness that is lasting, that never comes to an end, that is everlasting, a happiness that continues from life to life to life. And this is the kind of happiness that here coming together in retreat, that one is developing the causes to achieve such a happiness, to eventually attain happiness that is freed from all suffering and therefore is everlasting. And that is what makes out the final purpose of coming together in retreat as really quite special.
on sanyi dikiata lojema dawa khashije lojema ya ya ani dine dima che dima ze ani soso mashi bardu dikiya di sunshel mashi sunshegida dikiya gi dondal myudi dire dine mado yo mare dinisten dugore de ani jige rangdam ya jige shen rokorena rangi punyada rangi puguda da pugu dondal ya dikiya gi dondala di dugor jezada 제자들 세디기 만주기 디기르비게 자와디 미유디 다 타르무쇼디 만주 마시 바도 차고알 마시 바도 디기르비야 됐습니다 거래 다데네 셴 야체주 삼다베네 야체면서나 랑기 부부다 부부 미카시기도 다 디기르비야 랑기 연세다 부부 디 카시기도 나라 디기르비야디 디삼다제가 저 지속이 내가 주게 디기르비야게 탑람디 내가 내야디 나디로와
So, as a member of society, we need to engage in earning a living. So to earn a living, one engages in a variety of professions. And whatever profession one is involved with, the motivation there was the same, to achieve happiness. I need to earn a living so that I can have a comfortable standard of living. But whatever success one has in one's career, it leads to only temporary happiness. And this, again, we know that on the short term, there are highs and there are lows. But even in terms of the good aspects that come from our work, for example, earning a salary, being able to afford a home and have holidays and other nice things, the happiness that one can experience is happiness that is only experienced in this life. And the second part of the motivation is to bring happiness to those that we care for, our circle of loved ones and friends. And for this, again, we need to earn a living so that we can raise our children, we can perhaps contribute to the welfare of our grandchildren and our broader family and dear friends. So whilst we have a circle of friends and loved ones that we work to bring happiness into their lives, again, this is through the lens or the perspective of a single lifetime. So the activities we engage in, whilst motivated to achieve happiness, only lead to the attainment of temporary happiness, and the focus is really only on this one lifetime.
tarpada tamje kimbe ko ba toyagi don dalaya dengi dewa 사람들 세력 디기야야기 don dala ngazuki digi tuege tablamdi nyamne jigor pesi jigoro dire ane ko 윤율의 삼답이네 세디담 많이 봐 개와 치마디네 치마 tarba tamje kimbe dengi dewa toyagi don dalaya 도시에 마오바나 dengi dewa toyagi don dala ane dik nyamne jigore 겨 예주도 거래 아 개체중 삼담이네 다랑 지고 랑 소소랑 지고 많이 봐 근데 지금 소소에 되게 그거 할 때는 제 랑다 니 랑기 대랑 뭐신 봐다 마신 봐 샘자 탐지 미다 등로 가래 수인에 샘자 탐지를 하는 디기 주야 한데 판바 주야게 다달라 예신부 주야게 디 다달이야 하는 거게 디링 개기위 냠는 제디 디샤고 제가 디레자 먼저 디기 주야디 개와 디다 체치마다 체럽는 체럽디기 개와 통역이 다달아야 이렇게 기초 주야 직제 안디야 라지고 많이 샘자 탐제 메다 둔로 가르 시네 탐지게 된다 디기 주야 컨도 강아시야 된 디기 주야 된다리야 먼저 도스네 네 계셔 줘야 돼 냠는 제디 디샤고 디네자 그배 먼저 디링기 3미 토네 도시네 기회 냠는 제디 내기 자체모 시우직 내던다 주고 지내자 뱀마세기다 이게 가와성보다 된다 침부 시우치 차대로와
In terms of one's motivation for one's general activities in life and the motivation for coming together in retreat or engaging in Dharma practice, there is a similarity in that the motivation behind everything we do is to achieve happiness. But where the motivation needs to be quite different for being together in retreat or engaging in Dharma activities is that the motivation needs to be far broader, looking beyond just the immediate experience of pleasure or the immediate experience of pleasure and looking beyond having happiness in this life, but looking at accumulating causes that will lead to happiness in lives to come. And not just merely another good rebirth and another rebirth with excellent conditions, but to ensure that we're accumulating causes that are leading to our progression towards the attainment of Buddhahood. And with Buddhahood as one's final goal, this also thereby encompasses not only one's own happiness, and not only the happiness of one's group in this life, but the happiness of all beings, all without exception. So this is the kind of motivation to cultivate far-sighted outlook, looking beyond, well beyond this life, and a broader perspective encompassing all beings. So this is the kind of motivation to cultivate when one is engaging in the Dharma, being together now in retreat. And with such a motivation, the causes that one accumulates will lead to an incomparably beneficial result.
네네 자당한테 디레 당한테 되게 내 친연제디 타버친 비기다 로정 된두마세디 엔디고 마시야래.
So today we're going to be starting to look at this text, the 7-point Mahayana mind training.
자단 타버친 비 로정 된두마세디 당봉한테 tempasanyi jumne deyi ya semjen tamjige de sanyi ko ba tubi chedo jam ni je chanju semye nyamne ji rimbadi sanyi ge to na ma so ba he ndi sanyi so sha ba di ne nyamne ji de kumbu lu la so ba da pa ba to me la so ko ran ju nyamne du shen nyamne ji ba shin nyamne chin de jo ne ane je ne gar so rim de ang je ne joje ane ka lama siling be dinegi da done sonship ane ko lu ta de ma papa thum ma sonship be ye ane taba chimbu chue de nyamne lang and then is ne joji ki pa shu ondo sine ma jine taba chimbu ge jamni je da tongban ko be nyamne ji ba de a joji ma du ske de ba chim ma ge ne nyamne je ba lam ji ma ji ge ne nyamne je ba de de ma je ne Geshe Chekawa ge nyamne je ne Bendigo nyamle rimba chene dene che Geshe wi korongeda Bendigo da jamni je da tongbanyi to be shara nyamle ji rimba di ha tuen duen ba du chene chikma chik dor du chi soma le beshi chesan Bendigo sonje be bechi tela ya loja denje duen du ko ne chaba chimbe che nyamle ji da rimba di denje duen ko ne sonje ba di tawa chimbe loja duen ma se Geshe Chekawa ge Bendigo sonje be da taba chimbe loja duen ma se dire na la jamni je dam ane tongbanyi to be shara nyamne che dire.
Good. The teachings that we've come to call Buddha Dharma were introduced into our world by the great Buddha Shakyamuni. So he taught extensively throughout his lifetime, and these teachings were kept alive through the cultivation of the continuum of great practitioners and their dissemination through teaching and guiding others to cultivate it in their own mind. So the lineage of the Mahayana teachings started with Buddha Shakyamuni, started in our world with Buddha Shakyamuni, progressing on through a number of great, really unparalleled masters in ancient India, such as Nagarjuna and Chandakirti, and other masters such as the Sangha, and then spreading far and wide to masters such as the Lingpa, and eventually coming to Tibet, and with great masters such as Atisha. And through Atisha, then in Tibet, the teachings were propagated, and there were many great beings, such as one of the earlier students of Chekawa. And Chekawa then composed this brief text, which lays out the technique to train one's mind in the cultivation of the Mahayana Dharma, and is presented as in 7 points.
And 체질이야 로정되게 찾아 냠는 직뒤에 냠는 제림바 직제 얘네 단디네 로데니 잡아야다 체리가 돼서 디네 지리 로정의 체 직제 로정 갑리야 담지 순고야 되게 담직듯이 로정의 담직세야 직제 로정이가 랍자 디네 제월에서 랍자시 어두신데 제 뒤인지 어두신의 손발이 얘라 디네 손셔바들라 태버지 로정의 된세 뒤니군의 손셔바들라다 디네 로정의 마세 디스.
Having a look at the text before you, you'll see the outlines of the 7 points. So the 7 points of Mahayana mind training. So the first are the preliminary practices, the development of the mental foundation to be able to actually engage in the Mahayana. And the second point is engaging in the Mahayana, which is the practice of the 2 bodhicittas. Then the third point is that in order to become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings, one needs to train one's mind extensively over a protracted period, engaging with suffering beings. Therefore, one will experience many challenges, many hardships, and this is the third point, transforming such adversity into the path to enlightenment. And then the fourth point is a presentation of a summary of a lifetime's practice. And the fifth is the measure of having cultivated, the measure of having trained one's mind. And then comes the last 2 sections, commitments or samayas of mind training, and then finally advice for training the mind.
이상 다들 안조위 조지에 요지기 다디 남림 장주 남류에서디 다치사 상이 손시 비타바침 비추에 냠는지 림바데 장주 남류에서 손별와 디에다 장주 남류에기다 즉 용유에 델이야 되스 개바데 제름 치기 남림 안에 남림 제제 오스네 림바 체바데 진다 총오세데 남림 기진 림바 냠내지 림바 도스 손바레 나 내내 근데 남림 림바데 만도 레 당보서 당본 바로 좀 치야라 진냠내지 림바 도스네 직장 줘야지 MSA 야고치 예바 기디 참바로 줘야래 내가 내내 기지 체가왜 내내기 냠내지 림바데다 수 뒤시네 네 된전 뒤나 뒤시네 묘유의 소말을 봐 그래서 아디 내내기 로저 뒤는 메게데 냠내지야디 갈강삼 내내기 토네 잡아친 비기 추럽자 냠내 유에디간 유셔서 유에디엔들이야 이제 손셔봐도 직뒤리 요노지 바 냠내지 두에 투에 시작으로 봐 어디는지 손셔 유치게
The great Indian master Atisha came to Tibet propagating the Dharma. He composed a summation or a presentation of the teachings of the Buddha according to the stages of training one's mind in accordance with beings of varying capacities. So this text is the lamp for the path to enlightenment, and it is the foundational text of the Lamrim tradition, which Lama Atisha, by composing this text, he introduced to the world, in particular into the world of Tibet. Then other great Tibetan teachers later composed more expansive versions of the Lamrim with far greater detail, but following the same order of practice as presented by Atisha. So great masters such as Lama Tsongkhapa composed first the great Lamrim and thereafter the middle Lamrim, which are far more expansive texts on how to train one's mind in the graduated stages that lead to the attainment of Buddhahood. So this way to train one's mind is the very best way to progress, to develop the actual qualities of the Dharma within, and eventually become a Buddha. Then there are other masters, such as Chekawa, who composed a brief text such as this, which are for those whose minds are well trained already, and to use as a practice guide, a meditation manual, you could say, to help to take the training they've already cultivated within to cultivate, to strengthen their qualities of the Mahayana. Another presentation that is widely utilized to cultivate the qualities of the Dharma is Shantideva's engaging in the Bodhisattva's way of life. And this is also an expansive presentation whereby one trains one's mind, progressing towards Buddhahood. There are, of course, a wide number of other texts that lamas composed in accordance with the disposition and inclination of their students. The motivation to cultivate for engaging in a Mahayana text, such as the 7-point Mahayana mind training, is the broad and expansive motivation that encompasses all beings, the wish to be of greatest benefit. And that is all beings, that is the broad and expansive motivation, as well then as a far-sighted motivation. The way to benefit beings is to lead all beings to the attainment of Buddhahood, and to do so one oneself needs to attain Buddhahood. So this is the quality of motivation to cultivate for engaging in a text such as this. Tibetan masters will start a text with their with a homage, and the purpose of this is to, one, express their motivations, the motivation they will have cultivated, but to express this in written form, and through the merit of thereby gained, they will have that merit or dedicate that merit so that the text fulfills the motivation that they have cultivated, the motivation they expressing in the homage, that the merit thereby accumulated, may this text bring about the fulfillment of that motivation. In this particular text, the Chekawa, he is offering prostration to great compassion.
And 다 차세비 유들이야 상계래 차서로 세당 본주숨나 차서로 세당 되네기 거래 나들이 이샤가비기 되네기 전다 마소가제 니지첨보라 차서로 니지첨보 유처 차세 유디 니지첨보 세대 온도신의 자지 들이야 차서와래지.
Some texts have a homage to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, but here the homage is to the quality of great compassion.
내 니지첨보라 차서로 세비기 되네 차세 유디 되네게 통하디 남사 이가라 하고 그래서는 나디기 땡주도 원하 셔야디 잠니제 자이스티고 느숭겨 바디 하고 그래서.
When seeing that the homage to this text, so imagine you coming across the text for the first time and you see there's a homage to great compassion, then you'll know a primary or explicit subject matter of the text will be love and compassion.
그래서 난 니지첨보라 차서로 세디 니지첨보디 삼로 마세 야첨보시오 니레 셴레 펜베 삼바 야첨보시오 디레 하바 메바지레 니지첨보 그래서 다 펜베 삼블로는 야첨보 디 삼로디야 랑이잖아 셴 탐제리야 펜제 주기 유 저와 아주기 개비 개와 냠는 가르쳐베네 저와 니지레 되네 리고래 그래서 저와 니지첨보를 연구를 되네 자다 배 진ing제디 탈바다 탐제 개묘 고방 토야다 아주기 개와 침망 원dio 고방 토야다 되네 탐제 인제를 되네 연구를 그래서 니지체바 마세 삼로 야첨보 쇼치레 그래서 딜레 펜베 삼로 메와서 되네기 니첨보들이야 되네기 삼다지 니첨보를 차서와래시.
There is no more expansive beneficial mind than great compassion. Great compassion encompasses all beings, goes far, far beyond just oneself or just oneself and one's own group, but encompasses all beings and all beings equally. So with great compassion as the very root of one's motivation, one is thereby expressing a wish to take as one's own responsibility to guide each and every being to gain liberation from suffering and in fact to gain Buddhahood. So therefore there is no motivation that is more expansive than this, no motivation comparable to this.
나 저기 만져하고 얘기 단 삼로로지 지 삼다베네 개충주로 삼다베네 지셔야 삼제 단 인지세디 단 셴야 젠 동화단 잔하선비게 셴 동화단 잔하선비 삼로디 셴 동화 자리게 남바칭에 삼로디를 니체를 걸어봐 제가 셴에 강아지 마중도 약고를 셴 강아지를 강아 체부 강아지를 자고도 선비 삼로디 얘네들은 니체시 걸어와다.
The meaning of the word compassion is the wish for beings to be freed of suffering, to never have to suffer again.
제사당 어주게 삼다베네 어주게 현지의 닝지 주변에 아시콧 강아들을 차나선 비가 섬로치다 고동아들을 차고도 선배 섬로 주변에 어주게 데네기 강아체리기 미디이나라 sem제이나라 데네기 섬로 주변에 안주게 델이야 닝지 주변에 안 델이야 고강아세이 탑람 비즈치야 콜로로체야디 용고로와 콜리에 세워지야 녀버지야 강아제 섬로 용고말와 해와자 델이야 로체야 고 펀버주에 섬나 지금도 제산 닝지로 섬다 데네 제사당 안주게 파메게 부를 제와 여바的 닝지 여바자 멍을 부디 마음보다 강아지 마체나 강아기 강아는 잔의 야고 강아는 마체 초고문도 신비 되게 닝지 여바자 파메 부를 다견제야 소견제야 로정제야 아니 그런 마음반에 그런 게 지 야고요 투에 된다라 배주 지고로 와대지 파메게 부를 제와 닝지 여바자 지고를 제 심제라야 도도다 제와의 인주에는 대다 칼라제야 로제야 이건 저기 에디송은 냠냠으로 쉬어도 책으로 와.
This mind of compassion is something that we all possess, and it arises most clearly when we see someone suffering. Naturally, the wish arises for them to be free of suffering. And if we have the capacity, it's this wish of compassion, or this motivation of compassion that will push us forward to help this being, the suffering being, help them gain freedom from that instance of suffering. Or if there's nothing we can do, we'd nevertheless, compassion will ensure we have the sincere wish, may this being be free of suffering. Where this is most clearly expressed is in families from the parents to their children, that it's due to the parents' compassion for their children that they care for their children and care for their children in the broadest possible way. They work to earn a living so that they can offer the very best they can for their children. They feed their children, look after their children, encourage them to go to school, to try and study hard so as to have a good start in life. The parents put in a lot of energy and care to try to help the child develop a good attitude, a kind heart, so that they can have the emotional skills to be successful in life. So the whole motivation here for parents is compassion for their children, not wanting their children to suffer, but to have lasting happiness. One of the defining features that makes great compassion so different from just regular compassion is that the greatness of the mind has one of the qualities of encompassing all beings without exception. So not just one's own group, but all beings, not just humans, not just animals, but all beings without exception are encompassed equally with a great compassion. This quality of this mind of great compassion is the ideal root for all our virtuous endeavors, and thereby will ensure immense virtue to be accumulated. In this regard, quoting the very first verse in Chandakirti's supplement to the Middle Way, hearers and solitary realizers are born from the Buddhas. Buddhas are born from bodhisattvas. The mind of compassion, non-dual understanding, and the altruistic mind of enlightenment are the causes of bodhisattvas. First line from Chandakirti: hearers and solitary realizers are born from the Buddhas. This is because the Buddha taught the Four Noble Truths, and independence on this teaching and guidance in how to cultivate it. Practitioners who have the goal of achieving their own liberation, their own individual liberation, cultivate the qualities of the Four Noble Truths within, and attain the paths of heroes and solitary realizers, progressing towards the final attainment of those paths, the state of a foe destroyer. So this is why the heroes and solitary realizers arise from Buddhas.
나 상계 코론 간에 스테워치네 상계 전주 선발에 총샤 상계 코론 간에 중어를 되네 상계 세대 전주 선발에 되네 개발에 전주 선발 남기 잠니지 봄 안에 지제 파신 중에 냠는 제발에 되네 전주 선비 냠는 제발에 되네 상계서 와래 저 상계 세대 유단기 강에 매바 용거 말 유단기에 되네 두고 지사 전주 선발 남기 람냠수 렘발에 되네 안에 상계 최고래 지사다 상계 발에 녀라 장유심비 냠는 리바티 공고래 지사다 상계대 전주선발에 되는 개발이 사실.
So we see here that heroes and solitary realizers arise from Buddhas. The second line then, that was the first line, the second line is that Buddhas are born from bodhisattvas. So this shows then the cause for Buddhas, in that Buddhas arise from bodhisattvas. Particular through the bodhisattva engaging in the activities of the bodhisattva, the bodhisattva eventually arises as a Buddha. So the Buddhas are caused by bodhisattvas.
근데 자주심받기 간에 중요해서 근데 자주심받을 간에 기가 돼서는 이제 니수멜로다스 니제 셈나 니수멜로다스 니제데 니지 첨보다 근데 니수멜로스 동방이 두비 셔랍 지사다 잠 자주심나 동방이 두비 셔랍 공발에 때네 아니 자주심 세야디 자주심 게디 같은 중요해서는 동방이 두비 셔랍다 아니 니지 첨보에 때네 개발해 니지 첨보에 때네 개발해서 지사다 대사 니지 첨보에 때네 자주심 게 자주심디 될때 냠술렘 바지 상계 고방도 상계 고방도네 상계 최 송요도 될때 년도다 란제디게 냠는치게 기회서와 되지 제사다 년도다 년도게람 이리베 남자 상계의 연된 자주심의 연된 차사다 근데 자원 니지를 때는 기고래서 제사다 니지심나 니수면로다 세대된 니지심디 자주심 받는 규티래서 통해들이서 얘가 자주심 니지 첨보디 저 판발 개침부터 계세 타다기 자와 니지 첨보들이 사실 니지 첨보를 찾아와도 들어와.
The second line was Buddhas arise from bodhisattvas, and then what are the causes for a being to become a bodhisattva? So this is the third and fourth line: the mind of compassion, as well as non-dual understanding. In other words, the wisdom realizing emptiness, as well as bodhicitta itself, are the causes of bodhisattvas. So bodhisattvas arise from great compassion and the wisdom realizing emptiness, leading to the rise of bodhicitta. So therefore, bodhisattvas arise from great compassion. Because from great compassion, one cultivates bodhicitta. When bodhicitta arises, one is a bodhisattva. And through the bodhisattva continuing in their practices, including the wisdom realizing emptiness, eventually they become Buddhas. And as Buddhas, they teach the Dharma and thereby teach the way, teach the Four Noble Truths, the way by which heroes and solitary realizers also attain their paths and their goals. So this way we see the very root of all attainments as being great compassion.
강치 전이 계획 로도 분조대 세번단의 별라추를 문제도 로제나라 민바 답을 뒤겨봐 대신 다게 토마니지 되어버지 예세 근데 더더 beja 아무 이제도 저 차차와 진짜 도신 시티들이야.
Then the second verse from Chandakirti is supplement to the middle way. Compassion alone is seen as the seed of a conqueror's rich harvest, as water for development and as ripening in a state of long enjoyment. Therefore, at the start, I praise compassion.
지산다 니지 첨보디 배 토토 항상 저게 당보래 기침부쇼래 바다 기침보래 타마 빈 당보 니지 전주선 마게니라야 니지디 배 버시 기침보래스 네 전주선 기 참내자 니지 침보디 기침보래 냠내 지고래스 다 되네게 니지 전주선 기는 상계고만 톰나 니지 침보디 기침보래스 지산다 토마 기쳐와 바도 기쳐 타마 기쳐버래스 토토 버스는 기침보래 시고치래스
The purpose of these two verses is to make the point that great compassion is of the utmost importance. And when is it of great importance? Right at the beginning, as well as in the middle of one's training and at the very end. So throughout one's spiritual journey, great compassion is of the utmost importance.
제자들 많이 돈도 따윈 돈도 마진일에 차와도 주고 거래 취케지 뭐래 제자 되네기 줄리도 고거래 되네 줄리기 때문에 돈도 마기에서는 제보만민 바라들이야 아니 줄리 거래 차로면나 감루로 왔어 제자다 제보디 바민 제보 바다 사회나 야지 줄리면나 야지 제보디 미야요 야고 용서 말이 제자지 취디 더 강한저 돈다를 마서나 당보 대비급래야 신가 대비급로 주고거래 답찬의 예비급래 주고거래 예찬의 제보디 야 민찬의 다사회는 내 주고거래 기침부디로와 디나시 인제의 당보 인제 매게나 아니 자주심 기투 말에 제가 인제의 기침을 자주심 개발라 인식이 고 제가 인제를 되는 교월 제가 인제의 토마를 기침을 쇼레스 바로 기침을 해야 돼 자주심 기찬하다 자주심 배념의 집이가라 인제 매나 자유심의 념는데 현래 판도 지오가 지루와 현래 판도 주어야 돼. 제가 현래야 저원이 지보면은 다 소소라는 게 계획님들은 지키고 되마도 현래 판도 계시면 좋고 말이야. 제가 자유심의 념에 현래 판도 계시면 좋아라야 다 인지고 그래서 자유심의 념에 집이 가버려. 다 상기 고원 톱나야 인지 매반데 다 소소라는 다르비 고원 톱사와인자 냠자 지키고 싶더니 현래야 아니 최시 동아시아 로제의 용 말이야. 제가다 인지 국고 제가 인지 여반에 인지 디원게 현래야 최된 동아시아의 용거 제가다 인지보데 전주선 마게 녀래야 인지 고야 계침보데 전주선 개발라 인지를 되네 겨월데 전주선 마게 녀래야 인지 계침보 아 전주선 개비 개차베 전주선 냠는 제비갑라 인지를 계침보데 인지 계침보면나 심제 담제를 판대 주야다 상여고보 투비치 냠는 제야데 슉침보데 용도 말에 다 상계 고방 톱나 인제 계침보래 상계 고방 톱선이 인제 매반나 대전에 최된 동아시아의 탑람딩이 말에 제가 인제 계침보래 그래서 다 인제심 뱀마시기 계침보래 사데 어두스션 송으로
I read the verse, the second verse again. Compassion alone is seen as the seed of a conqueror's rich harvest, as water for development and as ripening in a state of long enjoyment. Therefore, at the start, I praise compassion. So the meaning of the verse is that compassion is the very seed from which all good qualities arise, and that compassion is required throughout one's training. So just like if you want a particular crop, you know you need to put the right seed in the right soil, but that alone is insufficient. The seed in that soil needs to be nurtured. So this is presented through watering. So when you plant the seed, you'll want to water it immediately, not have it leaving to wither in dry soil, but you want to water it immediately. And when the crop is starting to grow, again, you'll continue to water it, continue to nurture it. And to ensure that it grows to its completion and fulfills its potential, you will continue even at the end to water it so that the seed and the crop never dries out. Similarly, bodhicitta compassion is required throughout one's training. It is the very seed from which bodhicitta arises. Without compassion, one cannot generate bodhicitta, which means one will never have at one's heart the welfare of all beings. So therefore, bodhicitta compassion is required at the very beginning of one's training. And even in the middle of one's training, when one is a bodhisattva, if one loses compassion, one loses one's bodhicitta, and therefore one no longer will have the welfare of others, the good of others, at the very heart of one's motivation. So therefore, compassion is needed in the middle of one's training as well. And it's required at the end. And the end of one's training is that when one has completed the training grounds, and is on the training paths, it is on the path of no more training when one is a Buddha. So here, one as a Buddha is at the end of one's training. There, compassion is still required because it's compassion that compels the Buddhas to help beings, to teach the Dharma to others. So therefore, we see that compassion is required at the beginning, so as to generate bodhicitta. It's required in the middle, so as to ensure the bodhisattva continues to hold all beings at the center of their heart as a very purpose of their training. And it's required at the end, the parts of normal training, so that the Buddha teaches and guides beings to attain their own freedom.
다신 냠제 삼다제 니제 굽나 지금 거래 지사디 나데 되는 디나 소야데 다신 냠제 거래 니제 냠제 제다지 숨거래.
So therefore, we see in our text that great compassion is homage is paid to great compassion at the outset of our text, and it is a primary focus of this text. So to generate great compassion, to generate bodhicitta, there are two methods presented in the Dharma. The one is the sevenfold cause and effect method, and the second, which is the focus of this text, is that of equalizing and exchanging self with others.
나라주길라 제위 이니제 마소나 사번이지 호란 육을 마소나 제위 마디 사번 육을 마소나 요요 바래 단 육이 야게 다야야 추다 류다 죄다 두신 튕긴 파티게 되게잖아 거의 대부디 육이 야 철철 신제 근데 메도셔야다 제부 민바지 용고로 봐 안디 나지 나라주길라 제위 이니지도 요래스 여반자 당 나라주 이니지의 균 첨부 이니지 첨부 맞아봐도 가르지었으나 아 저기디 야네 야도 김제 삼네 제바지 곰요 말해서 나고 만장 걸 일 마스는 추려 류루지 마중 와래 길 마체 반자 얘기 주고 말해 예자당 안 주게 대위니지 여바디 아 저기 곰바 있나 다 얘기 줘요 니 침보 그 투그리에스 예자데 아주 이니지 여바디 대위니지 여바레스 여바디 가르서는 아 주기라 랑기 안에 파마라 제와 요래 수이네 소수기 부고래 제와 요래 소수기 년래 제와 요래 시사 되니게 제와 니면배야 신 강한 체류가리 언니제 선배가 지수 동안 자나 선배가 삼로도 요요 발 제바디 요래 시산디 땅 안주기 그 하나에 야도 검체 금체 뭐뭐 삼다 되니게 토네 공부 있나 아니 침뭐 차유 참해서 시사가 니지 요배 유디 요디 바팅 알스게 요디 바디다 이 야게 땅 그래서 뭐다 야게 땅다 간에서 땅 그래서네 어디네데 땅 그래서 막 야게 땅한 게 좀 숨거래.
What needs to be recognized right at the outset is that great compassion or the cultivation of great compassion is entirely within our capacity. Everyone here has the seed of compassion. Thereby, by nourishing the seed of compassion, we should be confident it can and will sprout and blossom into full compassion within our own minds. And why I can say this with complete confidence is that we see this in our own lived experience, in our own minds, as well as what we observe in society, how parents naturally care for their children, how children care for their parents and care for each other, and how people in society do care for others when they see suffering of their loved ones or of strangers too. Compassion naturally arises within people. So from this, we know that the seed for compassion abides within all of us. Therefore, we should take these instructions presented in this text as personal advice, because they are all within our capacity.
뭐 공부다야게 고합주의돼 버려. 이래서 당 되니기 샘 개첨보 라션 샘전 탐제의 팬비게 샘 개첨보 되니 제니지 첨보해야 돼. 아 저기 니 랑 소수율라 기에게 돈다라 님밀지야 고거라와 빼 야고리 산비게 소소 직sem이야 가오 구미하다 니네기 냠nen디 모두의 지기에 셈비다 안주게다 셈이야 이것을 인도병 셈쇼를 봐서나 도세 예디 예심 차대로와 니네기 아주 니네기 자야 고거라다 가와 성부 지게 현도의 공부를 해야지.
So I encourage you, based on what I've just said, to once again remind yourself of your own great good fortune, your great good fortune in having come here, having cultivated the causes to come here, and now being here, that you have this wonderful opportunity to come to understand not only how to cultivate great compassion within, but to strengthen those causes for great compassion. So the seed within you, you have now come into an environment where, under the guidance and the time you have here, to nourish that seed within. So I encourage you to generate great joy at this opportunity that you have created for yourself, and commit to make the most of this opportunity. And to, with this commitment, to have a confidence that what is being guided here is something you can do. It's not beyond any of you. To develop a strength of mind to make the very most of this opportunity, to nurture your own good qualities, and to progress towards the generation of great compassion within.
다디네 당은 저기 당 냠는 제발라 다디 가르고스 당보 원조들 장고리에서 인사치 당보나리아 당보 원조다라 나압세 지상 원조를 냠는 제고리에서.
But then how does one train? How does one cultivate great compassion and all the subsequent qualities? Here we turn to the first of the 7 points, which states, first, train in the preliminary practices.
그래 당무시 잠니제 전유샘 냠는 맛이 예리 양은 저기 냠는 가리 채고리 뒤질 마소나 니 야고 영향이 된다라 당보 냠는 제고에 되기 되라 원조 냠는 시원 원조 시로나.
The meaning of preliminary practices, or these are the practices that are done as a preliminary to the main practice later. But these preliminaries are indispensable. They're not to be glossed over or seen as lesser, because this is the preparation of the mind so that great compassion and bodhicitta can arise. It is only in dependence on having fully cultivated the preliminary trainings that bodhicitta or great compassion and bodhicitta can arise.
당은 저기 제말 마소나 제말 맞은 것이 맞은 예리 원조들 가르가르 구고스네 책에 한국어다 되게 차사디 적문들이 걸어와 제자디 한국어에 발시 제말 뭐시 제베네 되게 강바다야 나서 다야 되니 제마수에 강한 체중고로와 제자디니 강한 마체에 당번에 파 가르가르 구 차산 제리 체베네 원조식으로와 원디 나시 잠니제다 봉반이 고미야다 잠니제 고미야 자주 셈 자야야 냠는 체발은 예리야 아주 삼도 가르가르지 고를 삼는 나래 남보 가르창도 줘 남보 디장도 줘 디장대지 설명이데 야후지 차선에 되는 얘네 얘네는 당무시 잠니제 고미야다 자주 셈 고미야 봉반이 고미야기 삼도디 동고리에서 지산디다 다봉원도들 봐 잠니제 고미야야 강한 마체 야후 영향이 된다다 예리야 가르가르 삼당고를 냠는 체과디 니 장고리에서 지자체는 나고 승원도 납세디 원도 나고리에서 송고로와.
So hopefully make it really clear that the preliminaries need to be our primary focus, because without having cultivated the preliminaries sufficiently well, your wish to become a bodhisattva, to realize emptiness, will not come about. So imagine yourself suddenly placed in a sporting arena, and you're there against an opponent or an opposing team who are fully qualified. You have done all their training. You have the right gear for that sport, and they've done all the training, and there you are. If you have trained, you've got the right gear, you have the correct running shoes on and whatever else is required, you'll be okay. You'll be confident. If not, it's not going to be a very successful outcome. Likewise here, the preliminaries are indispensable.
디나레다 60디나레야 몬도달라 랍세리 60마도 몬도 장고레 세마도 근데 60디나 뒤샤버려. 제사당 안주게 넘윤네다 롭장 몬도고 롭장 제바이네 차상로를 샤도 어디 디리서로 샤도 지금 거래. 제는 안주 몬도게 될야 롭장 제메나 몬도다 랍세도 몬도데 가르치라 거래세 비다 삼 못던 거야. 신의 거 장고야를 자고로 봐.
You have the text before you. You see that despite the importance of the preliminaries, it's not only is it one point, just one of the 7 points, but it's just a single line. So it's really, and in that line, it's not even explicitly mentioned. The reason for this is because this is a text for those who have trained already in the preliminaries. So we need to therefore flesh them out a little bit.
이사당 안주기 녀마의 장사가 있나? 양원도의 랍시디 원주기 녀마 냠네 제신바데 파심네 전소다야 치마도 지고 전소다야게 공묘 야죠 공묘마도 고신의 장고에 차고 말이요.
So for those who are well educated in the sense not just of knowledge, but of having done the training, they will read this line and immediately the line will fulfill its function. It will serve as a reminder for one's prior training to arise, to be naturally generated. And it can do so because of the preliminaries already having been accomplished.
문도 고발 하다 미고바 토라야 삼년님네 개와 가르가르 싸우고래 세디 수림 소야 다 쇠복음이야 지배님네 지역화기도 시작을 해서 디소레 디소 자야래 얘네 로자디 배고신 얘네 시선에 얘네 고유 동아 타다를 주제 타르비 고바 토바라 나삼나 가르당 오래시네 고유 동아디게 삼다 동아들이야 아니 보면도 선비게 삼다 얘네 동아들한테 말을 타는데 탑민도 타고도 제사디네 타버더니 타버 토우도 세베 타버더니 삼다 자야지 노셔네 자야디게다 점이제다 자주심 고매기 원조리아 녀를 로 장도를 삼로나는 장도를 제거해야 니소리 제사디 람른 나라 기후 총원의 투명한 미림 벌로 장와 기후 tin다 투명한 미림 벌로 장와 세디 딜로 장의 림바 손에 대다는데 타버 챔비의 점이제 자주심 동반이 또 비셔의 냠는 제알이야 원조리다 원조 제거래
As beginners, where we need to rely on is the teachings presented in the Lamrim. Because in the Lamrim tradition, the graduated stages of training in order to attain enlightenment, there are the preliminaries for the generation of bodhicitta and the wisdom realizing emptiness are clearly laid out in the training shared with the practitioner of initial capacity and the training shared with the practitioner of intermediate capacity. So these are our preliminary practices. So in brief, we need to cultivate the virtuous qualities of a mind of generosity, a mind of ethical restraint, and a mind of patience. Moreover, we need to reflect well on the sufferings of samsara so that we come to recognize that there is no abiding value to be found in samsara, thereby giving rise to the mind of definite emergence, this determined attitude to strive for and achieve liberation from suffering, liberation from samsara. So these, in brief then, are the preliminary practices for the generation of actual bodhicitta and actual wisdom realizing emptiness.
나는 아주 될려 당보 먼저들 납시리 다 동반이 고미야 다 잠니 주고 몰라 당보 하는 아주 냠내 집에 갑래 먼저디 제고리 해서 먼저디 냠내 제고리 해서 다데 냠내 제가 가르려 했으나 다 당보 아주게 동반이 고 섬담발라 도신에 어쭈 해려지네 동반이 공고거와 되네 니 잠니지디 공고거와 되네 마음 녀려야 가르치고리 랍니다 아주게 먼저들이야 가르치고리스네 디 근데 조회 추둑 세야 되는 거래. 조회 추둑. 제사 조회 추둑 내한 지도르지 구성도기 된단 바세 소소에다 공접세계 강바디 바 장마쇠 안데리아 구성도기 된점에 바 점체 두스점에 내가 지다시 구성도기 된단 바세디 나도신 당보디 최고래시래
Dedicated that they drop.
저기 쭉
It drops.
근데 주가 소매 당보디 시월다 당보디리에스
Having the imprints to come to a place like this, I know you have a wish to generate great compassion and become a bodhisattva as well as to develop the wisdom realizing emptiness. But prior to that, one needs to prepare one's mind through the preliminary practices. So therefore, we need to train in those preliminaries so that bodhicitta and the wisdom realizing emptiness can be cultivated. The very starting point is even before the preliminaries, is preparing oneself in a meditation session. So there, for this, there are 6 types of preparatory practices. The first of which is to prepare your place of meditation.
어디니기단 내가 잠어서 구성도기 된점 체비체려야 되는 이버디 가르스네 처바디 바샤미지 처바 유메바 유메지 고바 제발 샴바 시도다 처바 유메바 시도다 처바디게 바 지금 그다 다바 정마체 근데 야푸야데 되는 고바 제바 시도 닝제 오지 파 야고지 푸야데 도시 푸레 샴레스
So the 6 preparatory practices. The first is to clean one's clean and prepare the place of your formal practice, and to set up one's shrine. So to arrange the images representing the Buddha's body, speech, and mind. And thereafter, that's the first. Thereafter, secondly, to arrange offerings and arrange them in a way that is pleasing, that is beautiful. So doing so with care, with the genuine expression of giving.
디네 엔디젤다 디네 된 대화라 최대 튠비기 죄람기 쾌디 겸르심게 자와세 제자다 땡아 삼대 대에서는 명아서 팅아들이 주사들이 잡로 된이 돼서 토아지 디네게 바이 뇌신에 된디 야보지 디가라 되는 죄람 튠바세들 유 남나 취 된데서 지로다 도시네 도시 되고레스 되지 디네게 예전에는 겸르심게 꾸노 맞다 겸르지야다 네심게 심제한 상유고바 토벌지기 심게 심게 꾸노 겸르심게 최고레스
Of the 6 types of preparatory practices, the first is to clean and prepare your place and set up your shrine, make offerings. That's the second. Then the third is to sit on a comfortable seat, whether it's on a chair or on the floor, and sit in the 7-fold Vayachana position, and generate the specific virtuous mind. So this, the virtuous mind for the engaging in your meditation, that of generating the mind of protecting refuge to the 3 jewels, as well as bodhicitta. So this way, you sit comfortably, the third step, you sit comfortably, and you generate the motivation of refuge and bodhicitta.
디네 겸르심게 디네 소소 초사월자 나 초사유 네 초신세다 고리에스리야 초신세다 이제 초신세다 데리 제자네 네 초사월자 초신세다 고리에스 대티 시바디 최고래.
And the fourth then, now that you are seated and generating refuge and bodhicitta, you imagine the merit field to whom one is going to make generate, or in relation to whom one generates refuge and bodhicitta. Imagine the merit field before you.
디네 나 초신세다네 나 초신세다 위치리야 나 초신디 엘리야 지지도 좀 대바다 dimba tsechi du jebi thone sachang ne yana dimba yana dimba.
The third step there was to generate refuge and bodhicitta in relation to the fourth step, the merit fields. And now one engages in the fifth step, in the act of accumulation and purification by means of the 7-limb practice. So that's the fifth.
yana dimba inege yana dimba puine delia 초사야다 이제 지바차야 되니 양라dim바네 사창시리 사바시리 소식이 개와 알마사바 살사바 장시리 나랑아 디바샤 디바사샤바디게 디바디게 파자야 되는 게 뭐 없이 삼단에 자야 되려 아니데 자야 대체상은 너도 수반에 야라 뒷바지 차사와던 처벌 보아라서 봐 내내게 돈에 야나 뒷유관에 두시는 사사체에 비해 예침벌이 예수모
One here in this fifth step is accumulating merit and purifying non-virtue so as to aid the cultivation of the virtuous minds that you are setting out to do so in this meditation practice. So one does so in the brief presentation or the condensed presentation of the 7 limbs. So the 7 limbs includes various ways of accumulating merit as well as that of confession of non-virtue. And there one should utilize the 4 opponent powers. Even though they're not explicitly mentioned, one needs to utilize the 4 opponent powers to purify successfully.
얘는 니젤이야, 얘는 주버들이야, 야, 소진들이 만제푸네, 얘는 소수기 되베 된 주베게야, 소딥 빛이 된 거래, 소딥 쉬고 된 거래서 제산다 소수기 되베 된 내가서는 소수기 냠내 잠기 이제 장주샘 도모이 되게 싫어 냠내 지야 인자 얘네게 냠내데 야보용와 라마 라마데 이름 이티수기야 아니지 진이람로지 세리아 소딥 만제 부이데 소딥 되야 쉬어야 될 차고래.
That the 6th of the 6 types of preparatory practices is one offers a mandala and recites a supplication text or prayers, and usually one there would do so to one's lama, imagined before one in the merit fields, and doing so to receive blessings or inspiration from one's lama in relation to the main body of the meditation that one is about to embark on.
노치는 소리지 지사디 저기 출국세디 이 차거를 지사디 나는 주경아들이 직해 공제 고조회장 델리아 니체사 표시 주어 최고로 직 내하세 등 참여고 되세디리에 네 처바다 유명한 샴바다 소바티 집에서 데니그 출루디 마연스 삼다베데 경로 삼다베데 데니그 주되어서 최고로 와 다지수 지단에다 그는 유니코라 배 냠내 제해진바 모티시 냠내 제해딜 튀시 검제 냠내 제해딜 두시아월 송고와.
So these 6 types of preparatory practices, I imagine that you together are doing them, and that's good to do now as a group. And for those of you who are new to this, you take the familiarity you gain here with starting the meditation session in this way, and you take it home with you and continue in your own practice to start your meditation session by means of these 6 types of preparatory practices.
데네기다 두치는 소뎁지에 사회체라 땅을 저기 데네기 땅 먼저기 먼저들 납사야디 납탄 직디래 데네 안디가래 먼저 가르치고 그러서는 데네 소식이 단주류 단주류 텐데 삼다야다 이 지원미다 바디 삼다야래 지자 단주류에서 어다데 데네기 냠지 네 류딘데 빼마시 년치게 아와케난 저와 주생유 류딘데 다 류딘 개발진 톱도유 선비게 데네기 류딘데 톱 까와래 유링 타와들이야 데네기 류딘 제려야 탈바다 템지케 고반도에 남님을 가래 제나 루트웨게 된 개발진들이 유링 데네기 네 류딘데 빼마시게 예 전부 된 개발진들이 데네 토와 빼하고 이 선비게 소소 까와고면다 유링 류딘데 안지게 다 수철마다 와제 된다 첨부 개첨부 루트에 된다를 비슷하지 유딘 델량이 잠니제의 자주 sem라서버 어머니 되게 싫어하지 공염의 지기 선비게 삼다이다 소주게 다지 유딘데 예 첨부 삼다이지 디제 디삼당고에서 올다 먼저다가 납세도 먼저 디서 되네게 된 유딘 된 첨부 예 첨부 임바 파롤 파샤와제 되네샤네 되네 유딘 디 된이야 안직 타바tum제기고 고바타 잠니지 전유 셈라서 처당 루트에 된 개발진들이 일에 타바 메 디제디 덴딩에 디 추제마다 와제 베지 야고 덴덴데레 냠네 야고 제도가 지기 셈베 삼나에 디데스.
With this first point, first training the preliminary practices starts with the preparatory practices, so there are 6, preparing your place and your shrine, as well as making offerings, sitting in a comfortable manner, generating the motivation of refuge and bodhicitta, whilst imagining the merit field and purifying and accumulating through the 7 limbs and offering a mandala, making supplications. So that's the preparatory practices, those 6, and that then is followed by the preliminary practices. So the preliminary practices then start with recognizing this incredible opportunity that you have. So the first one is to generate a joyous mind. And this joyous mind is generated through recognizing that I have a precious human rebirth, which means I have this remarkable rebirth marked by the 18 freedoms and endowments, which comes down to this. Right now, I have the opportunity and the capacity to develop all the qualities of the path to enlightenment within. How incredibly fortunate I am. I have this opportunity. I'm going to embrace this opportunity. So this is the first reflection, the first preliminary practice is reflecting on the precious human rebirth so as to develop a joyous and determined mind to embrace this opportunity.
Bendigo Thubten Rabten Rabten Nyamne Majabana, Rochemachi, Gemachi, Pajashavana, Dipara Nyamne Mara Paradilia, Mavachi, Shisovana, Karchiburi, Petit and Achimbu to get the chooses to Chala Dansare, go up sure, some Tane, Negati, Namching Eva, never, Chichesa, the Nisa, Chiva and Tachubare, Chiana Neva Sky Meva, never, the Nisa, Datanga, heavy capitalia, so Deva the tongue by the Denigi, heavy capitalia. Nyamne tatene jihi samje adushine samdyadi jeda chiwa mitawa samnan namji ngeme samtawi thone jeda dinegi thone nge tate gen subo thamu yoba debu yoba gengen machebi kap delya mi go hab dinegi chena nyamne mashine gedishe tatene jihi samje nushine samtang ore ejere bada.
So the first preliminary is the reflection on precious human rebirth, which leads to the recognition that this life is not ordinary. This life is incredibly special, and this leads to a joyous mind. Then the second preliminary is to recognize, but this life isn't stable. It is fleeting. It is very brief. So the second is the impermanence of this life. And here we remind ourselves that time is constantly passing, and the ending of this life is nearing. And when and the manner in which it ends is completely unknown to us. It may well end due to illness, and those causes for illness exist within me. They may already be manifest and I'm unaware. They may shortly start to manifest. I have no idea. Moreover, I know from my own lived experience, what I observe in society, that through something completely unexpected, an accident, someone's situation can radically change. Either their life ends or they are severely impeded in some way. Could be through a natural disaster and suddenly one's life changes radically, or through an accident of sorts. Or also what we see, thankfully mainly on television, but through unexpected violence, someone's life can either end or their opportunity can be radically changed. So recognizing, firstly, this incredible opportunity that I have, and now secondly, but it is not stable. I mustn't take it for granted. This life can end. This opportunity will end. So therefore, now is the time to cultivate the qualities in my mind. Nothing is more important than this. And this is an imperative second step because it takes what we came to value in the first step. Now we see I can't take it for granted. I must not delay. I must not procrastinate till all my ducks are in a row. Right now, I need to make the most of this opportunity.
얘네게 니지 셴보디 주쇼게 슈반나제가 또 니지 셴보디게 케케바르디 니지 윤된 제 셈게 셴보디 냠네제 빼 야고를 디른 거를 빼 야고 중시하더니 이리데 참 되어 요와 타주제바 너무는 셈비 소소 가와 kum야 소식이 기회자와 개발의 지수이라 가와 kum 소속이 단념도 소속이 제처로 참되게 뭐여반사 디스처 곧 차사 딜셔 빼 야고래 다 건조게 먼저 차사 야고 중시 셈비 현이게서라 가와 kum 디네 가와 kum네 디네게 디른 거 호야 빼 야고래 디네 자다 디리 그 고압딜이야 한잠이 지천주 선생님은 됐다 다르신 바데 제도 제기 선배 삼다당 저게 원적에 삼다타디 아디 디네시 디네게 토네 당은 주쇼게 디네시리아 삼자 좋아
talking about the preliminary of recognizing impermanence of this opportunity. Our first session together now has come to an end. So to summarize what we've spoken about, again, I encourage you now generate joy in having recognized the first preliminary, this precious human rebirth, that this is a remarkable opportunity to cultivate the qualities of the Dharma within. And the second preliminary, you've also have some recognition of a sense of urgency that I need to utilize it well now. And you've done so by coming together, using your holiday in this most worthwhile manner. To recognize these qualities within you and also recognize and generate joy for the aspiration that you each have to generate bodhicitta, to become a bodhisattva, as well as to realize emptiness. To recognize these qualities, take confidence that you have the capacity to accumulate the causes that will definitely lead to that result, and commit to using our time here together, using it well. So thank you. Then we can conclude here for this morning and continue this afternoon. Thank you.